The great chamber of the Galactic Council stood silent as the representatives filed in. The room was enormous, built to hold thousands of beings from hundreds of different worlds. Floating platforms drifted in careful patterns, each one carrying delegates from species that had mastered the stars long before humans had learned to make fire. Today's emergency session had been called by the Crithian Empire, and everyone knew what that meant. The Crithians were warriors, proud and aggressive. Their empire stretched across 40 star systems, and they were always hungry for more. Ambassador Velthar moved slowly to his platform. He was old, even by the standards of his species, the Nitheron. His skin had faded from deep blue to pale gray over his 4 centuries of life. His 3 eyes moved independently, watching the other delegates with an expression that might have been worry or might have been resignation. The Crithian war leader, Thextor, rose from his platform. He was massive, covered in thick scales that gleamed red under the chamber lights. When he spoke, his voice boomed across the chamber. "Honored delegates," Thextor began, spreading his forearms wide. "We come before you today to announce a great expansion of the Crithian Empire. We have discovered a new species on a world they call Earth. They are primitive, confined to a single planet, with no faster-than-light travel. They have rejected our generous offer of protection." A murmur ran through the chamber. New species were discovered regularly, but most chose to join the Galactic Council peacefully. The Crithians had a different approach. "We will bring them into the galactic community," Thextor continued, "by force if necessary. They will learn to serve the Empire, as so many others have." Velthar felt something cold settle in his chest. He touched the control panel on his platform, requesting permission to speak. The Council Arbiter, a being of pure energy contained in a crystalline form, acknowledged him. "Ambassador Velthar of the Nitheron Collective," the Arbiter announced. All eyes turned to him. Velthar stood slowly, feeling the weight of his years. "War Leader Thextor," Velthar said, his voice quiet but carrying across the silent chamber. "I must urge you to reconsider this course of action. I must warn you about these humans." Thextor laughed, a sound like grinding stones. "Warn me? About a species that has not even left their own world? Ambassador, your people's caution is well known, but this borders on paranoia." "I speak from experience," Velthar said. "My people encountered the humans 243 years ago. We made the same mistake you are about to make." The chamber grew even quieter. The Nitheron were known for their peaceful ways now, but they had not always been so. Stories of their warrior past were rare. "What happened?" the Arbiter asked. Velthar's 3 eyes closed briefly. "Remembering, we were explorers then, expanding our territory. We found a human vessel, a colony ship moving between their planets at sublight speed. It would take them decades to reach their destination. We thought them easy prey." He paused, and when he continued, his voice was heavy with old grief. "We boarded their ship. We killed everyone aboard, 3,000 humans, including their young. We took their technology, their resources, their bodies for study. It seemed inconsequential at the time. They were so weak, so slow, trapped in normal space while we could jump between stars." "And?" Thextor prompted, his tone mocking. "Did these mighty humans destroy your empire with their primitive weapons?" "No," Velthar said softly. "It took them 70 years, but they found us. Every single one of us who had been on that ship." The chamber erupted in conversation. 70 years was a long time, even for the longest-lived species present. To hold a grudge that long, to pursue justice across decades, it seemed almost insane. "Silence," the Arbiter commanded, and the noise died down. "Continue, Ambassador. The humans we killed had families," Velthar explained. "Friends, loved ones, and humans do not forget. They spent 7 decades learning about us. They learned our language, our culture, our technology. They learned where we lived, how we thought, what we valued, and then they came for us." 70 years, Thextor scoffed. "By then, surely your attackers were dead. Humans live such short lives. The ones who carried out the raid were dead, yes," Velthar agreed. "But their children came for us, and when some of them died in the pursuit, their children continued. They passed down the mission from generation to generation like a sacred duty. We killed 3,000 of them. They hunted 47 of us across known space. It took them 70 years, but they found every single one. A delegate from the chorus, a species of insectoid beings, clicked her mandibles. What did they do to those they found? They put them on trial, Veltar said, in front of the entire Nitheron collective. They presented evidence, recordings from our own ships, testimony from our own people. They proved every crime, every death, and then they demanded justice according to our own laws. They didn't simply kill you? A delegate asked, surprised. No. They wanted us to face our own laws, our own justice system. They wanted us to condemn ourselves. Velthar's voice was quiet. And we did. According to Nitheron law, the punishment for piracy and murder was death. All 47 were executed by our own hands, while human observers watched. Only then did they leave us in peace. A fascinating story, Thextor said dismissively, but irrelevant. You encountered a small group of humans on a single ship. We will be facing an entire planet, and we will break them quickly, before they have time to develop any thoughts of revenge. That is exactly what we thought, Velthar said. We thought that by acting swiftly and completely, we could avoid retaliation. We were wrong. War leader, I am begging you to reconsider. The humans are not like us. They are not like any species in this council. They do not think the way we do. How do they think, Ambassador? The Arbiter asked. Velthar looked around the chamber, trying to find the right words. We build empires. We conquer, and we rule. We fight for territory, for resources, for dominance. But humans fight for each other. They fight for ideas. They fight because someone hurt their people, and they will never, ever stop until they have balanced the scales. They call it justice, but it is more than that. It is a fundamental part of who they are. Poetic, Thextor said, but meaningless. The Crithian Empire has conquered hundreds of worlds. What makes you think these humans will be any different? Because you are going to kill them, Velthar said bluntly. Not all of them. You cannot. There are billions of humans on Earth, but you will kill enough to make them angry. And humans who are angry, humans who have lost their families, their homes, their children, they become something else entirely. They become relentless. I will not be lectured on warfare by a species of pacifists, Thextor growled. The Crithian Empire will do as it sees fit. If the humans resist, they will be crushed. If they continue to resist, we will make examples of them until they learn obedience. Velthar sat down slowly. There was nothing more he could say. He had tried. The other delegates began to speak, some supporting the Crithian action, others expressing mild concern, but none of them truly objected. Earth was far from the main council territories, and the humans had not yet made contact with any other species. If the Crithians wanted to subjugate them, who would stop them? The vote was called. The council would not interfere with Crithian expansion into human territory. It was, after all, how things had always been done. The strong took what they wanted, and the weak learned to serve or die. As the session ended and the delegates began to leave, Velthar remained on his platform, watching the chamber empty. He thought about the human hunters who had pursued his people for 70 years. He remembered their faces, calm and determined, as they presented their evidence. He remembered the leader of the human delegation, an old woman whose own grandmother had died on that colony ship. She had looked at him with eyes that held no anger, no hatred, just an absolute certainty that justice would be done. You seem troubled, Ambassador, a voice said. Velthar turned to see the Arbiter's crystalline form floating nearby. I am, Velthar admitted. The Crithians have no idea what they are unleashing. Your warning was noted, the Arbiter said. But the Council cannot interfere in matters of expansion without clear evidence of genocidal intent. There will be genocide, Velthar said quietly. The Crithians will make examples. They will destroy cities to break human resistance, and when they do, they will create something far more dangerous than any human army. They will create humans with nothing left to lose. You seem to have great respect for this species, the Arbiter observed. Respect and fear, Velthar corrected. I respect their determination, their loyalty to each other, their refusal to forget or forgive unpunished crimes, but I fear what they become when you hurt them, because they do not just fight to win, Arbiter. They fight to ensure that whoever hurt them can never hurt anyone else ever again. They fight with a completeness that is terrifying to behold. The Arbiter was silent for a moment, processing this. Perhaps the Crithians will be merciful in their conquest. Velthar made a sound that might have been a laugh. The Crithians? Merciful? No, Arbiter. They will do what they always do. They will crush resistance with overwhelming force. They will make examples. They will show no weakness. He paused. And the humans will learn. They are very, very good at learning. 6 months later, Velthar sat in his private chambers, watching the news feeds from Earth. The Crithian fleet had arrived 3 weeks ago. They had demanded unconditional surrender. The humans had refused. And then the Crithians had done exactly what Velthar had feared they would do. 3 cities had been destroyed from orbit. New York, Tokyo, Mumbai. Millions dead in an instant, vaporized by plasma bombardment. The Crithians had broadcast the images across all human communication networks, along with a simple message: surrender or watch your world burn. Velthar watched footage of the destroyed cities, vast craters where millions had lived just hours before. He watched human news broadcasts, saw the grief and shock on their faces, but he also saw something else, something the Crithians had missed. In among the tears and the mourning, there was a hardness forming, a cold determination. Humans being interviewed spoke not of surrender, but of remembrance. They listed the names of the dead. They promised that these names would not be forgotten. Velthar knew that look. He had seen it 243 years ago, on the faces of the humans who had hunted his people. He opened a secure channel to Thextor. The Crithian war leader answered, looking pleased with himself. Ambassador Velthar, Thextor said, have you called to congratulate me on our swift victory? You have not won, Velthar said quietly. You have just guaranteed your own destruction. Thextor laughed. The humans are broken. Their resistance is scattered. Their military is in disarray. We have occupation forces on the ground and complete control of their orbit. In a few months, they will be productive members of the Empire. You killed millions of them, Velthar said. In a single day, you destroyed 3 of their greatest cities. You did it to break their will to resist. And it worked, Thextor said confidently. No, Velthar said, his 3 eyes fixing on the Crithian's image. You have made the same mistake my people made. You think that by killing enough of them, you can make the rest submit. But humans do not work that way. Every person you killed had a family, had friends, had loved ones, and every single one of those survivors will remember what you did. They will remember for the rest of their lives, and they will teach their children to remember. And those children will teach their children. Then we will kill them all, Thextor said dismissively. There are billions of them, Velthar said. You cannot kill them all, and every one you kill creates 10 more who will never forgive you, never forget what you did, never stop until they have made you pay for every single death. Thextor cut the connection. Velthar sat back, feeling older than his 4 centuries. He had tried to warn them. He had done everything he could. Now all he could do was wait and watch as history repeated itself. Except this time, it would be worse. Much worse. Because the Nitheron had killed 3,000 humans on a single ship. The Crithians had killed millions. And if his people had been hunted for 70 years for their crime, how long would the humans pursue the Crithians? Forever, Velthar thought. They will hunt them forever. He sat in his chambers and waited for the inevitable. The Crithians thought they had won. They thought the hard part was over. But Velthar knew better. The war had not even begun. The humans were learning. They were studying their enemy. They were remembering every face, every name, every crime, and soon, very soon, they would begin the hunt. 6 months had passed since the Crithian Empire had brought Earth to its knees. War leader Thextor stood on the command deck of his flagship, looking at the reports with satisfaction. The human homeworld was firmly under Crithian control. Occupation forces were stationed in every major city that remained standing. The humans had been divided into work groups, assigned to mining operations and manufacturing facilities across their planet. There had been resistance at first, of course. Scattered groups of human fighters hiding in their wilderness areas, launching hopeless attacks against Crithian positions. But these were being hunted down and eliminated one by one. The humans were learning their place in the Empire. War leader, his second in command, a younger Crithian named Vexral, approached. The monthly production reports from Earth are exceeding expectations. The humans are proving to be efficient workers once properly motivated. Textor nodded. Proper motivation meant executions for those who resisted, and rewards for those who complied. Simple, effective, the way the Empire had always operated. And the resistance? Weakening. Vexral reported. We eliminated another cell last week. Intelligence suggests there are fewer than 10,000 active fighters remaining on the planet, down from an estimated 200,000 at the start of the occupation. Excellent, Textor said. Soon Earth will be fully integrated. Then we can move on to the next conquest. An alarm suddenly blared across the command deck. Textor turned sharply. What is that? Sir, a communications officer called out. We have lost contact with Outpost Varix 7. Textor frowned. Varix 7 was a mining station at the far edge of Crithian territory, 300 light-years from Earth. Equipment malfunction? Unknown, sir. The outpost stopped transmitting mid-sentence. All attempts to re-establish contact have failed. Send a scout ship to investigate. Textor ordered. It was probably nothing. Equipment failure. Perhaps a reactor malfunction. Such things happened occasionally, even in the well-maintained facilities of the Empire. 2 days later, another outpost went silent. Then a third. Then a mining colony with a population of 50,000 Crithians and assorted slave species. Textor stood in the war room, staring at the tactical display. 4 installations, all at the edges of Crithian territory, all gone silent within a week. This was no coincidence. Pirates? Vexral suggested. Pirates do not have the capability to take down military outposts, Textor said. And they certainly could not do it without any distress calls, any warning, any sign of struggle. Then what? Assemble a battle fleet, Textor ordered. 3 cruisers, 20 frigates, full marine complement. We will investigate Varix 7 personally and find out what is happening. The fleet arrived at Varix 7 3 days later. What they found made even the battle-hardened Crithian warriors pause. The outpost was destroyed, but not by conventional weapons. The structure was still mostly intact, but everything inside was dead. The Crithian garrison, the slave workers, even the plants in the hydroponics bay. All dead. Biological weapon, the fleet science officer reported, his voice shaken. Some kind of engineered virus. It killed everything with a nervous system, then broke down into harmless compounds. We are reading no active pathogens, but the genetic markers suggest this was deliberately designed to target Crithian physiology specifically. Textor felt something cold settle in his gut. Who has this kind of capability? Only a handful of species in known space, the science officer said. And all of them are members of the Galactic Council. None would risk open warfare against the Empire. They found more clues at the second outpost. This one had been attacked differently. Radiation poisoning. A dirty bomb had been detonated in the station's central hub, flooding the entire facility with lethal doses of gamma radiation. Again, the structure was intact, but everything living was dead. The third site was different still. Here they found signs of actual combat. Scorch marks from energy weapons, blast craters, breached bulkheads. The Crithian defenders had fought something, but there were no bodies of the attackers, only dead Crithians and a station in ruins. Check the security recordings, Textor ordered. The technicians worked for hours to recover the damaged data storage. When they finally managed to retrieve a partial recording, what they saw made no sense. The attackers on the screen were human. Impossible. Humans did not have faster-than-light travel. They were confined to Earth, 300 light-years away. They could not possibly be here, but the recording did not lie. The attackers wore improvised armor, carried weapons that looked like they had been cobbled together from scavenged parts. They moved with a coordination that suggested military training, but they fought with a savagery that was distinctly not military. One section of the recording showed a human fighter who had been shot 3 times, bleeding heavily, continuing to fight until he managed to plant an explosive charge on a bulkhead. The explosion killed him and 7 Crithian soldiers. In the moment before the blast, the human looked directly at the camera and smiled. Analyze that armor, Textor ordered. Those weapons. Where did they come from? The answer came back quickly. The armor was Crithian in design, modified and repaired. The weapons were a mix of Krithian equipment and improvised devices. The humans had not brought this technology with them. They had stolen it from the occupation forces on Earth. But how did they get here? Vexral demanded. How did they cross 300 light-years? More analysis of the wreckage provided the answer. Faint energy signatures consistent with Krithian jump drives. The humans had not just stolen weapons and armor. They had stolen ships, or more likely, they had captured them, studied them, figured out how they worked. In 6 months, Thextor said, disbelief in his voice. They went from no FTL capability to building their own jump drives in 6 months? Not building, the science officer corrected. Modifying. They took our drives and altered them. The energy signatures are wrong, inefficient. They are using the drives in ways that should not work according to our understanding of physics. But somehow, it does work. Thextor looked at the tactical display, at the 4 destroyed outposts. How many humans? What kind of fleet are we talking about? Based on the evidence, we estimate between 40 and 60 individuals were involved in these attacks. As for ships, at least 4, possibly as many as 10. All small craft, probably repurposed transport vessels or scout ships. 60 humans, in homemade ships, had crippled 4 Krithian installations and killed thousands of Krithian citizens. It should have been impossible. Find them, Thextor ordered. Deploy long-range scouts. I want every ship in this sector tracking them down. These humans will be hunted and destroyed. But the humans were not easy to find. They struck again 2 weeks later, hitting a supply convoy halfway across the Empire. 3 transport ships were destroyed, their Krithian crews killed, their cargo taken. Again, the attackers vanished before reinforcements could arrive. Then they hit a military research station, then a fuel depot, then a communications relay. Each attack was different. Sometimes they used biological weapons, sometimes radiation, sometimes conventional assault. They seemed to be testing different approaches, learning what worked best against Krithian defenses. The pattern became clear. The humans were not trying to win a war. They were studying their enemy, learning Krithian tactics, Krithian technology, Krithian vulnerabilities. Each attack was an experiment, a lesson, a step in their education, and they were learning fast. 3 months after the first attack, the Krithian Empire was forced to pull back forces from Earth to protect the outer territories. The humans had evolved from desperate raiders to a genuine threat. They had stolen more ships, recruited more fighters from the resistance groups on Earth, and begun launching coordinated strikes on multiple targets simultaneously. Thextor stood in the war room, watching reports flow in. Another outpost gone, another supply line cut, another group of Krithian citizens dead. The humans were not trying to capture territory. They were not trying to free Earth. They were simply killing Krithians, as many as they could, wherever they could. War leader, Vexral said quietly. Perhaps we should consider negotiating with them. Negotiate? Thextor's voice was dangerous. With slaves? With primitives? Never. We will crush them. We have been trying to crush them for 3 months, Vexral pointed out. And they only grow stronger. Every attack teaches them something new. Every Krithian ship they capture gives them more technology to study. Every battle they survive makes them more dangerous. Thextor wanted to argue, but he could not deny the facts. The humans were adapting faster than any species he had ever encountered. It was as if they were specifically designed to learn from combat, to take every setback and turn it into an advantage. An intelligence report appeared on his screen. Thextor read it, then read it again, unable to believe what he was seeing. They intercepted one of our military communications satellites, he said slowly. They cracked our encryption codes. They have been listening to our transmissions for at least a month. All of our transmissions? Vexral asked. All of them. Troop movements, supply schedules, command communications. They know everything we are planning before we do it. The implications were staggering. Every military operation for the past month had been compromised. The humans had known where the Krithian forces were going, what they were planning, how they would respond to attacks. No wonder the human raiders always seemed to be one step ahead. Change all encryption protocols immediately, Thextor ordered. Implement communication blackouts on all strategic channels. We will return to courier-based messaging for sensitive information. It was a massive step backward technologically, but it was necessary. The humans had proven they could not be trusted with access to Crithian communications. A week later, they struck at the heart of the Empire. A human team infiltrated a major military shipyard at HFY and detonated a series of bombs that destroyed 3 battleships under construction and killed over 2,000 Crithian workers and engineers. The attack sent shockwaves through the Empire. HFY was supposed to be secure, deep in Crithian territory, protected by multiple defense stations and patrol fleets. The fact that humans had penetrated so far into the Empire, had moved through Crithian space undetected, had carried out such a devastating attack and escaped, it shook the confidence of every Crithian citizen. Thextor called an emergency session with his command staff. "How did they get that far into our territory? We believe they are using captured Crithian identification codes," the intelligence officer reported. "They are disguising their ships as Crithian vessels. Our own security systems are letting them through because they appear legitimate. And the bombs? Crithian military explosives, stolen from armories on Earth during the occupation. They have been hoarding them, saving them for high-value targets." Thextor slammed his fist on the table, cracking the surface. "They are using everything against us. Our own weapons, our own ships, our own codes. What do they have that is actually theirs? Their determination," Vexral said quietly. "That is theirs. And it seems to be inexhaustible." The Galactic Council sent an inquiry. What was happening in Crithian space? Why were there reports of widespread destruction? Was the Empire under attack from an unknown enemy? Thextor did not want to answer, did not want to admit that his mighty empire was being bled by a handful of human raiders. But the questions kept coming, and eventually, he had to respond. "We are dealing with a minor insurgency," he reported. "Nothing that threatens the stability of the Empire. The situation is under control." It was a lie, and he suspected some of the council delegates knew it. But they did not press the issue. The Crithians were too powerful, too dangerous to confront directly. If they said the situation was under control, the council would pretend to believe them. Ambassador Velthar sent a private message to Thextor. It was brief. "I warned you. It is not too late to make peace. But soon, it will be." Thextor deleted the message without responding. Peace with humans? Impossible. The Empire did not negotiate with slaves and rebels. The Empire crushed them. But as the months continued and the attacks escalated, a terrible thought began to grow in Thextor's mind. He remembered Velthar's warning at the council. The Nitheran ambassador had said his people killed 3,000 humans and were hunted for 70 years. The Crithian Empire had killed millions. If the humans had pursued the Nitheran for 70 years, over 3,000 deaths, how long would they pursue the Crithians? How many generations would pass before the humans considered the debt paid? Thextor looked at the latest casualty reports. 15,000 Crithians dead in the past 6 months. Not from a conventional war, but from raids, sabotage, assassination. The humans were not trying to conquer the Empire. They were trying to make it bleed, to make every Crithian citizen afraid that the humans might strike anywhere, anytime. And it was working. Trade was suffering because merchant ships feared human attacks. Colonies were requesting additional military protection, stretching the Empire's forces thin. The economy was beginning to strain under the cost of the escalating conflict, all because of a few hundred humans in stolen ships. No, Thextor corrected himself. Not just a few hundred. According to the latest intelligence, the human resistance on Earth had swelled to over 500,000 active fighters. The occupation forces were barely maintaining control, and every week, more humans escaped Earth somehow, joining the raiders in space. The humans were not being defeated. They were multiplying. Thextor stood alone in his quarters, looking at a screen showing Earth, the blue and green world that had seemed so easy to conquer just months ago. He thought about the millions of humans still on that planet, working in Crithian facilities, wearing Crithian chains. He thought about what Velthar had said. Every person you killed had a family, had friends, had loved ones. Millions dead. That meant tens of millions of grieving humans, hundreds of millions who knew someone who had died, billions who would remember what the Crithians had done to their world. And humans, Velthar had said, do not forget. For the first time since the invasion began, Thextor felt something he had not experienced in many years. Not fear exactly. The Crithians were too proud for fear. but uncertainty, a creeping doubt. What if Velthar had been right? What if this was not the end of the war, but only the beginning? What if the humans never stopped coming? 2 years had passed since the Crithian Empire invaded Earth, and the galaxy had changed in ways no one had predicted. The mighty Crithian Empire, which had once stretched across 40 star systems, now controlled only 32. 8 entire systems had been abandoned, deemed too costly to defend against the relentless human attacks. The Galactic Council chambers were packed for today's emergency session. Every species wanted to witness what was happening to the Crithians. Some felt sympathy. Most felt a dark satisfaction at seeing the aggressive empire finally facing consequences for its actions. Ambassador Velthar sat quietly on his platform, watching as war leader Thextor was called to give his report. The Crithian looked different than he had 2 years ago. His scales were duller, his movements less confident. He had the bearing of someone who had not slept well in a very long time. "The situation remains manageable," Thextor said, but his voice lacked conviction. "We have implemented new security protocols and increased military presence in vulnerable sectors. The human insurgency, while persistent, does not pose an existential threat to the Empire." A delegate from the chorus raised a limb. "War leader, our trade ships report that several Crithian systems are now under full quarantine. Your own military is preventing ships from entering or leaving. This does not sound manageable." Thextor's jaw tightened. "Temporary security measures. We are tracking down human infiltrators who have been sabotaging our infrastructure." "For 2 years?" another delegate asked. "How many infiltrators can there possibly be?" "The humans are resourceful," Thextor admitted. "They have proven more difficult to eliminate than anticipated." Velthar requested permission to speak. When granted, he stood slowly. "War leader, perhaps it is time to share the true scope of the situation with the Council. The ambassador has no authority to speak on Crithian internal matters." Thextor snapped. "Then I will speak on human matters," Velthar said calmly. "Because what is happening in your empire is not an internal matter anymore. It is a demonstration of what humans do when you attack them, and every species in this chamber needs to understand what that means." The Arbiter's crystalline form pulsed with light. "Please elaborate, Ambassador." Velthar activated a holographic display. It showed a map of Crithian space, with red markers indicating locations of human attacks. There were hundreds of them, scattered across every remaining Crithian system. In the past 2 years, the humans have conducted over 400 documented attacks on Crithian targets. Velthar explained. They have destroyed military installations, supply depots, research facilities, and communications networks. They have killed an estimated 50,000 Crithian citizens and freed approximately 2 million enslaved beings from various species. Murmurs rippled through the chamber. 2 million freed slaves was a significant number. The humans have also captured or destroyed over 300 Crithian ships, Velthar continued. They have learned to build their own vessels using reverse-engineered Crithian technology. Current intelligence suggests they have a fleet of at least 200 ships operating in Crithian space. 200 ships is hardly a fleet, a delegate scoffed. 200 ships crewed by humans who have nothing to lose, Velthar corrected. Every single human in that fleet lost someone in the initial invasion. Family members, friends, loved ones. They are not fighting for conquest or resources. They are fighting for revenge. And that makes them more dangerous than any conventional military force. Thextor stood abruptly. The ambassador exaggerates. These are raiders, pirates, nothing more. They lack the organization and resources for sustained warfare. Then why have you lost 8 star systems? Velthar asked quietly. The chamber fell silent. Thextor had no answer. Velthar continued. The humans are not trying to defeat the Crithian Empire militarily. They cannot. Even with 200 ships, they are vastly outnumbered and outgunned. But they do not need to win battles. They only need to make the Empire bleed. Make it too expensive to hold on to conquered territory. Make every Crithian citizen afraid that the humans might strike at any moment. And in this, they are succeeding. A delegate from the Unified Spheres, a peaceful trading confederation, spoke up. What do the humans want? Have they made any demands? Stated any terms for peace? They want justice, Velthar said simply. They want the Crithian Empire to face consequences for what it did to Earth. They want the leaders who ordered the invasion to be held accountable. They want reparations for their dead, and they want assurances that nothing like this will ever happen to them again. Preposterous. Thextor growled. The Empire does not negotiate with slaves. Then the bleeding will continue, Velthar said. And eventually, it will not be 8 systems you have lost, but 18, or 28. The humans are patient. They can wait decades if necessary. Can your Empire? The session continued for hours, with delegates debating what should be done. Some suggested military intervention to help the Crithians. Others proposed mediation. A few, quietly, suggested that perhaps the Crithians deserved what was happening to them. In the end, the Council voted to offer mediation services, but not military support. The Crithian Empire would have to solve its human problem on its own. On the other side of the galaxy, in a hidden base carved into an asteroid in what used to be Crithian space, Commander Sarah Chen reviewed the latest mission reports. She was 43 years old, though she looked older. 2 years of constant warfare had aged her. Her hair was gray, her face lined with exhaustion and grief. She had been a civilian before the invasion, a teacher. She had been at work when the Crithian bombardment destroyed Mumbai. Her husband had been home with their 2 daughters. None of them survived. Now she commanded one of the largest human resistance fleets, coordinating attacks across 6 Crithian systems. She had learned to fight, learned to kill, learned to lead, but she had never learned to forget. She still saw her daughters' faces every night when she closed her eyes. A knock on her door interrupted her thoughts. "Enter," she called. Lieutenant Marcus Webb stepped in. He was young, only 24, but he had the eyes of someone much older. He had lost his entire family in Tokyo. "Commander, we have a prisoner, captured in the raid on the supply depot. High-ranking officer. He is asking to speak with whoever is in charge." Sarah stood. "Bring him to the interrogation room." The Crithian officer was named Vexral, second in command to war leader Thextor himself. He had been captured when his ship suffered engine failure during a human ambush. He sat in the interrogation room, bound to a chair, his scales showing signs of injury but nothing life-threatening. The humans had been careful to keep him alive. Sarah entered and sat across from him. She said nothing, just studied him with calm, tired eyes. "You are the one called Chen," Vexral said. It was not a question. I wish to speak about terms of peace." Sarah leaned back in her chair. "You have no authority to negotiate peace. You are a prisoner." "I have war leader Thextor's authorization," Vexral said. "He sent me to find you, to open discussions. The capture was intentional." "Interesting strategy," Sarah said. "Pretending to be captured so you can talk to us. Why not just send a formal communication?" "Because we do not know how to contact you officially," Vexral admitted. "Your fleet has no central command structure that we can identify. No home base. No fixed territory. You are like smoke. Everywhere. And nowhere. And yet you found me. We have been tracking your operations for months. Your strike teams show a level of coordination that suggests a central intelligence. We deduced you must exist. Finding you was simply a matter of being in the right place when your forces attacked." Sarah nodded slowly. "So talk. What does the mighty Crithian Empire want? To end this war?" Vexral said bluntly. "We propose a ceasefire. You cease all attacks on Crithian targets. In exchange, we grant Earth independence and withdraw all occupation forces." "No," Vexral blinked. "That is your only answer? No negotiation? No discussion? You killed millions of my people," Sarah said, her voice quiet and cold. "You destroyed our cities. You enslaved those who survived. And now, when we have spent 2 years making you bleed for it, you want to just walk away and call it even? What more do you want?" Vexral demanded. "We are offering you freedom. Your world returned to you. Is that not enough?" Sarah stood and walked to the wall, where a screen displayed images. She activated it, and Vexral found himself looking at photographs. Thousands of them, faces of humans, young and old, smiling at the camera, happy, alive, unaware of what was coming. "These are the dead," Sarah said. "Everyone on Earth who died in your attack. We have their pictures here. 3,472,896 people. We know all their names. We have memorialized every single one. And you think you can give us back our planet and we will just forget these people existed? They are already dead, Vexral said. Nothing can bring them back. No, Sarah agreed. But we can make sure they did not die for nothing. We can make sure that everyone who ordered their deaths, everyone who carried out those orders, everyone who profited from their suffering, faces justice. You want us to hand over our leadership, our military commanders? That will never happen. Sarah turned to face him. Then we will come and get them ourselves. Vexral stared at her. You cannot possibly believe you can defeat the entire Crithian Empire. You have 200 ships. We have thousands. You have a few 100,000 fighters. We have billions of citizens. The mathematics alone makes victory impossible for you. We do not need to defeat you, Sarah said. We just need to make you wish you had never heard of Earth. Every day, we will attack your facilities, kill your people, destroy your economy. We will make the cost of refusing justice so high that eventually, you will have no choice but to give us what we want. And if we simply exterminate every human on Earth? Vexral asked. If we decide that the only way to stop you is to eliminate your entire species? Sarah smiled, and it was not a pleasant expression. Then you will have billions of angry humans scattered across the galaxy, with nothing left to lose and an eternity to make you pay for it. Do you really think you can kill all of us? We are on dozens of worlds now. We have infiltrated your empire, learned your language, studied your culture. Some of us can pass as your slaves, your workers, your servants. You will never know which of us are resistance and which are just broken survivors. Every Crithian who walks past a human will wonder if today is the day they get a knife in the back. Every ship that carries human workers will wonder if those workers are planting bombs. You will spend the rest of your existence looking over your shoulder, wondering when the humans will strike next. She leaned forward, her eyes boring into his. So go ahead. Try to exterminate us. It will not save you. It will only make what comes next even worse. Vexral was silent for a long moment. What will it take? He finally asked. What do you actually want? The Crithian leadership stands trial for war crimes, Sarah said. Every officer involved in the decision to attack Earth, every ship captain who carried out the bombardment, every commander who ran the occupation, they face justice in a court presided over by the Galactic Council. They answer for every death, every crime, every act of cruelty. And if they are found guilty, they face the appropriate punishment under galactic law. And if we agree to this, then we stop attacking you. We withdraw from Crithian space. We rebuild our world and leave you in peace. You would trust us to honor such an agreement? No, Sarah said frankly. Which is why it will be enforced by the Galactic Council. We want Earth admitted as a full member of the Council, with all the protections that provides. We want a demilitarized zone established around our system, and we want reparations to help rebuild what you destroyed. Vexral shook his head. War leader Textor will never agree to these terms, neither will the Emperor. Then many more Crithians will die, Sarah said simply. And the funny thing is, war leader, we are not even using our full strength yet. This fleet, these attacks, they represent less than 15% of Earth's total military capability. The rest are back home, building ships, training soldiers, developing new weapons. We are learning from every engagement, getting better, getting stronger. In another year, we will be twice as effective. In 5 years, we will be unstoppable. You are bluffing, am I? Sarah smiled. You have been fighting us for 2 years. Have we gotten weaker or stronger in that time? Have our attacks become less frequent or more? Have we lost territory or gained it? Vexral had no answer. The truth was obvious. The humans were winning. Not in the conventional sense, but in the way that mattered. They were making the Crithian Empire shrink, making it fearful, making it spend more resources every day just to maintain what it had. I will take your terms to the war leader. Vex, Ral said finally. Do that, Sarah said. And tell him something for me. Tell him that we remember. Every face in those pictures. We remember. Every name, every life, every story, and we will never stop until justice is done. He can give it to us now, relatively peacefully, or we can take it from him over the next 10 years, the next 50 years, the next 100 years. The choice is his. But either way, We will have it. She stood and walked to the door, then paused and looked back. Oh, and War Leader? When you get back to your command, check the secondary data core in your flagship's navigation system. We left you a present. Vex Ral felt a chill run through him. What kind of present? A virus. We could have destroyed your ship any time in the past 6 months. Every time you jumped, every time you docked, every time you went into combat, we could have triggered it and killed everyone aboard. But we did not. We wanted you to know that we could have. We wanted you to understand that you are only alive because we allow it. Remember that when you deliver your message. She left. Vex Ral sat in the interrogation room, feeling truly afraid for the first time in his life. He thought about what she had said. 15% of their military capability, a virus in his flagship that had been there for 6 months. Humans infiltrated throughout the Empire. The war leader thought they were fighting raiders and insurgents. But Vex Ral was beginning to understand the truth. They were not fighting a conventional enemy. They were fighting an entire species that had decided the Crithian Empire needed to end. And humans, he was learning, were very good at ending things they decided needed to end. 5 years had passed since the Crithian Empire made the worst mistake in its history. War leader Thex Tor stood in the command center of his flagship, watching the tactical display with growing despair. The map showed what remained of the Empire, and it was a fraction of what it had been. 23 star systems. That was all that was left of the once mighty Crithian Empire. 17 systems had been abandoned, their populations evacuated, their infrastructure either destroyed by human attacks or left to decay. The cost of defending them had simply become too high, and now the humans were here, at the Crithian homeworld itself. A fleet of human ships, over 500 strong, maintained a blockade around the planet. They were not attacking. Not yet. They were simply waiting, cutting off all trade and communication, slowly strangling the heart of the Empire. Status report. Thex Tor ordered, his voice heavy with exhaustion. The blockade is holding at 72% efficiency. His tactical officer reported. Our defense fleet has managed to keep some supply corridors open, but the humans are adapting. They are learning our patrol patterns and adjusting their positions accordingly. Of course they were. The humans always learned, always adapted. It was what made them so terrifyingly effective. Vex Ral, now war leader himself after Thex Tor's demotion following the failed negotiations 3 years ago, approached. We have received another communication from the human fleet. Commander Chen wishes to speak with you. Thex Tor wanted to refuse. He had spoken with Chen before, and it had never gone well. But he had little choice. The Empire was dying. And everyone knew it. He activated the communication channel. Chen's face appeared on the screen. She looked older now, her gray hair pulled back, new scars on her face. But her eyes were the same. Cold, determined, unforgiving. War leader, she said, her voice neutral. Commander, Thex Tor replied. Have you come to offer terms again? No. I came to tell you that your time has run out. We gave you 3 years to consider our demands. You refused. You tried to negotiate lesser terms. You tried to buy us off with money and territory. You tried to fracture our leadership by targeting me and other commanders. None of it worked. So now we are here, and we are going to end this. You cannot take the homeworld, Thex Tor said, trying to sound confident. We have defense platforms, ground armies, millions of armed citizens. Even if you break the blockade, the cost to take the planet would destroy your fleet. We do not plan to take the planet, Chen said. We plan to make you give it to us. Before Thex Tor could respond, alarms began blaring throughout the flagship. The tactical display lit up with new information. Human ships were moving, but not toward the defense fleet. They were repositioning around the planet's major cities, the industrial centers, the military bases. What are they doing? Thex Tor demanded. Sir, they are broadcasting a message, transmitting it on all frequencies, in Crithian, aimed at the civilian population. Put it through. A human voice filled the command center, speaking flawless Crithian. People of the Crithian homeworld, this is Commander Sarah Chen of the Human Liberation Fleet. 5 years ago, your empire attacked our world without provocation. Your military destroyed 3 of our greatest cities, killing millions of innocent civilians. They did this to break our will, to force us into slavery. They failed. The message continued. For 5 years, we have fought your empire. We have destroyed your military bases, freed your slaves, and driven your forces from system after system. We have done this not out of hatred for the Crithian people, but to seek justice for our dead. We have offered peace many times, asking only that those responsible for the attack on Earth face trial for their crimes. Your leadership has refused every time. Thextor felt a cold dread building in his chest. He knew where this was going. Therefore, we are making one final offer, not to your leaders, but to you, the people. We know that many of you did not want this war. We know that many of you are simply trying to live your lives, to raise your families, to exist in peace. We do not wish to harm you, but we will have justice. The message changed, and new information began scrolling across every screen on the planet. Names, ranks, positions, the entire Crithian leadership structure, from the Emperor down to the officers who had commanded the ships that bombarded Earth. These are the individuals responsible for the attack on Earth. Chen's voice continued. These are the people who ordered the deaths of 3,472,896 human beings. We want them alive, to stand trial. You have 48 hours to deliver them to us. If you do, we will withdraw from your system and leave you in peace. If you do not, we will come down and get them ourselves. And when we do, we cannot guarantee the safety of anyone who stands in our way. The transmission ended. Silence filled the command center. They are insane, Vexral said. They think the civilian population will just hand over the Emperor, the military command. It will never happen. But Thextor was not so sure. He accessed the planetary communication networks, monitoring the civilian channels. What he saw made his blood run cold. The Crithian people were talking, arguing, debating, and a significant portion of them were asking a very dangerous question. Why should they die to protect leaders who had dragged them into this catastrophic war? 5 years of conflict had taken their toll on the Crithian homeworld. The economy was in shambles. Trade had collapsed. Food was rationed. Every family had lost someone to the war, whether in combat or in human raids. And now the humans were here, offering a way out, a way to end the suffering. All they had to do was give up the leadership. Lock down the palace, Thextor ordered. Secure the Emperor and the command staff. I want full military guard on all high-value personnel. But even as he gave the orders, he knew it might not be enough. The humans had spent 5 years infiltrating Crithian society, learning their culture, their language, their systems. They had agents everywhere, and they had just given those agents a very specific mission. 18 hours into the deadline, the first attempt came. A group of Crithian civilians, armed with improvised weapons, tried to storm a military facility where several of the named officers were stationed. They were driven back by security forces, but the message was clear. The people were turning against their own leadership. 24 hours in, there was a riot in the capital city. Thousands of Crithians, demanding that the leadership surrender to human justice. The military was forced to use crowd control measures, which only made things worse. 30 hours in, a high-ranking admiral on the list of war criminals was found dead in his home, murdered by his own security detail, who then tried to deliver the body to the human fleet. They were arrested, but the damage was done. The leadership was eating itself. Thextor sat in his private quarters, watching it all fall apart. Vexral entered without knocking. We need to evacuate the Emperor, Vexral said. Get him off-world, to one of the secure facilities in the outer systems. And then what? Thextor asked. The humans will follow. They always follow. You know this as well as I do. Then what do you suggest? That we just give up? Hand over the Emperor and let the humans dictate terms to us? Thextor was silent for a long moment. Then he said something that he never thought he would say. Yes, that is exactly what I suggest. Vexral stared at him. You cannot be serious. Look at what has happened, Thextor said, gesturing at the screens showing the riots, the chaos, the Empire falling apart. We lost this war 5 years ago. We just did not know it yet. The humans are not going to stop. They are not going to forgive. They are not going to forget. Every day we refuse to give them justice is another day our people suffer. Another day our empire crumbles. We cannot win this, Vexral. The only question is how much more we lose before we admit it. If we surrender the leadership, We lose all credibility. Vexral argued. No one will ever respect the Crithian Empire again. The Crithian Empire is already gone, Thextor said quietly. It died the moment we decided to attack Earth. We just have not stopped moving yet, like a body that does not know it is dead. He stood and walked to the window, looking out at the city below. Fires burned in several districts where riots had broken out. I was there at the council meeting, 5 years ago, when Ambassador Velthar warned us. He told us exactly what would happen. He told us the humans would never stop, never forgive, never forget. I thought he was exaggerating. I thought we were too strong, too powerful for a primitive species to threaten us. I was wrong. So what do we do? Vexral asked. We contact Commander Chen, Thextor said. We negotiate a surrender, not just of the leadership, but of the Empire itself. We end this war before there is nothing left to save. The communication with Chen was arranged within hours. She appeared on the screen, flanked by other human officers. Her expression was unreadable. War Leader Thextor, she said. I did not expect to hear from you so soon. I wish to discuss terms of surrender, Thextor said, the words tasting like ash in his mouth. The terms have not changed, Chen replied. Everyone on the list stands trial. No exceptions. I understand, but I want to add a condition. The trials must be fair, presided over by neutral parties from the Galactic Council. The accused must be allowed to defend themselves, and the punishments must be proportional to the crimes. Agreed, Chen said. We want justice, not revenge. A fair trial is justice. And after the trials, what happens to the Crithian people? Chen was quiet for a moment. That depends on them. If they choose peace, if they commit to never attacking another species unprovoked, if they make reparations for the damage they have caused, then they can rebuild. We will not occupy your worlds. We will not enslave your people. We will leave you alone. You would trust us to keep our word? No, Chen said honestly. Which is why Earth will join the Galactic Council with full membership. If your empire ever attacks another species again, the entire council will respond. You will face not just humans, but every species in known space. Your empire has learned that fighting one determined species is difficult enough. I do not recommend trying to fight all of them. Thextor nodded slowly. I will arrange for the transfer of the accused within 24 hours. But there is one problem. The Emperor has fled. He took a ship and escaped the homeworld 6 hours ago. We do not know where he went. Chen's expression did not change. Then we will find him. It might take time, but we will find him. We found everyone else on our list. He will be no different, even if it takes years, even if it takes decades, Chen said. We told you 5 years ago. We never forget. We never stop. The Emperor can run to the edge of the galaxy if he wants. We will still find him eventually. And when we do, he will face justice like everyone else. The transmission ended. Thextor sat back in his chair, feeling ancient despite being only 40 years old. In just 5 years, the humans had destroyed an empire that had stood for centuries, not through superior numbers or technology, but through sheer, relentless determination. He thought about the 3 million humans who had died in the initial attack. He thought about the 50 million Crithians who had died in the war that followed. All of it could have been avoided if they had just listened to Velthar's warning. Never attack the humans. They will hunt you across galaxies. The old Nitheron had been right. And now the Crithian Empire would serve as a warning to every other species in the galaxy. A cautionary tale about what happens when you underestimate humanity's capacity for revenge. The trials began 3 months later, held on a neutral station overseen by the Galactic Council. The proceedings were broadcast across the galaxy. Every species watched as Crithian officers, admirals, and politicians stood before a panel of judges from a dozen different worlds and answered for their crimes. The evidence was overwhelming. The humans had spent 5 years documenting every crime, every order, every decision that led to the deaths on Earth. They had recordings, testimonies, data logs, everything needed to prove beyond any doubt what had happened. Most of the accused were found guilty. The punishments ranged from imprisonment to execution, depending on the severity of the crimes and the laws of the Galactic Council. And somewhere, in a hidden base on the edge of known space, the Crithian Emperor watched the trials and knew that he would never be safe. The humans were looking for him. They would always be looking. For the rest of his life, however long that might be, he would be hunted. He had thought the Crithians were the apex predators of the galaxy. He had been wrong. The humans were, and he had made the fatal mistake of becoming their prey. The Galactic Council chamber was more crowded than it had been in centuries. Every species wanted to witness this historic moment. The admission of humanity as a full member of the Council was not just a formality. It was a recognition that the balance of power in the galaxy had fundamentally changed. Ambassador Velthar sat on his platform, feeling a mix of satisfaction and sadness. He had tried to warn them 5 years ago. Now, after so much death and destruction, the galaxy was finally listening. The Arbiter's crystalline form pulsed with light. We gather today to formally welcome Earth and humanity into the Galactic Council as a full member species. Ambassador Sarah Chen will represent humanity. Please come forward. Sarah Chen walked to the center of the chamber. She wore a simple gray uniform, marked only with the emblem of Earth. At 51 years old, she looked tired but unbowed. The weight of 5 years of warfare showed in the lines on her face, but her eyes were still sharp and clear. She had not wanted this role. She had wanted to return to Earth to try to rebuild some semblance of a normal life. But the human governments had asked her to serve, and she had agreed. The woman who had once been a teacher was now the face of humanity to the galaxy. Ambassador Chen, the Arbiter said, do you accept the responsibilities and obligations of Council membership on behalf of humanity and Earth? I do, Sarah said. Her voice carried across the silent chamber. Then by the authority vested in this Council, I declare Earth and humanity full members, with all rights and protections thereof. There was applause from some delegates. Others remained silent, still processing what humanity had done to the Crithian Empire. Fear and respect were often hard to distinguish. Ambassador Chen, the Arbiter continued, it is customary for new members to address the Council. Do you wish to speak? Sarah nodded. She had prepared a speech, something diplomatic and conciliatory. But as she stood there, looking at the assembled species, she decided to speak from the heart instead. 5 years ago, she began, my species had never met any of you. We did not know the Galactic Council existed. We were alone in the universe, as far as we knew, working to build a better future for ourselves. Then the Crithian Empire came to our world. They did not come in peace. They came to conquer, and when we refused to submit, they killed millions of us. The chamber remained silent. Everyone knew this story, but hearing it from a human perspective was different. I was a teacher before the war, Sarah continued. I taught history to children. I had a husband and 2 daughters. I lost all of them when the Crithians destroyed Mumbai. In a single moment, everything I loved was taken from me. And I was not alone. Millions of humans lost everything that day. She paused, gathering her thoughts. We could have given up. We could have accepted our fate as slaves of the Empire. Many species throughout history have done exactly that when faced with overwhelming force. But humans do not work that way. We do not accept injustice simply because fighting against it is difficult. We do not forget the people we have lost. And we do not stop until we have made things right. So we fought. With stolen ships and improvised weapons. With courage and desperation and a determination that surprised even us. We learned to fight in space. We learned faster than light travel. We adapted to technologies we had never seen before. And we made the Crithian Empire bleed for what they did to us. Sarah looked around the chamber, meeting the eyes of delegates from dozens of species. I am not proud of the killing. I am not proud of the destruction. Every Crithian who died in this war was someone's child, someone's parent, someone's friend. I understand that. But I am proud that we refused to accept being victims. I am proud that we stood up for ourselves when no one else would. And I am proud that we sought justice rather than simple revenge. The trials are complete now. Most of those responsible for the attack on Earth have faced justice. We are still searching for the Emperor and a few others who escaped. But we will find them eventually. We always do. But the war is over. The killing can stop, and now we can focus on building something better. She turned to address the Arbiter directly. Humanity joins this council with open eyes. We know that the galaxy can be a dangerous place. We know that there are species who view strength as an excuse for conquest. We know that laws and treaties are only as strong as the will to enforce them. But we also believe in cooperation, in trade, In peace when it is possible and justice when it is not. We will be good neighbors to those who treat us with respect. We will honor our agreements and uphold our obligations. We will contribute to the Council and support its mission of maintaining galactic peace. But we want to be very clear about one thing. Sarah's voice grew harder, colder. If anyone attacks Earth again, if anyone attacks our allies, if anyone thinks that humanity will be an easy target because we are new to galactic politics, they are making a fatal mistake. We did not spend 5 years fighting the Crithian Empire just to let another aggressor take their place. We are capable of defending ourselves, and we are very, very good at making our enemies regret attacking us. She let that sink in for a moment before her tone softened slightly. But we would much rather be friends than enemies. We would much rather trade than fight. We would much rather build together than destroy each other. The choice is yours. Treat us with respect, and we will respond in kind. Treat us as enemies, and you will learn why the Crithian Empire no longer exists as it once did. Sarah returned to her platform. The chamber was silent for a long moment. Then, slowly, delegates began to speak, welcoming humanity to the Council, offering trade agreements and cultural exchanges. The galaxy was adapting to its newest member, but there were also quiet conversations happening on private channels, species discussing whether humanity was a potential ally or a future threat, whether their determination was admirable or terrifying, whether the galaxy was safer or more dangerous with humans in it. Ambassador Velthar requested a private meeting with Sarah after the ceremony. They met in a small room away from the main chamber. The old Nitheron regarded the human with his 3 eyes. That was quite a speech, Velthar said. It needed to be said, Sarah replied. The galaxy needs to understand who we are. And who are you, Ambassador Chen? What should the galaxy expect from humanity? Sarah considered the question carefully. We are a species that values loyalty above almost everything else. Loyalty to our families, our friends, our principles. When someone attacks what we value, we do not forget it. We do not forgive it unless justice is done. We are capable of great cruelty when pushed, but we are also capable of great compassion. We can be your best friends or your worst enemies. The choice is not ours to make. It is yours. Velthar nodded slowly. My people learned that lesson 243 years ago. We have been at peace with humanity ever since, even before we knew you were becoming a spacefaring species. We have watched your development with interest and, I admit, some fear. Fear? You are dangerous, Ambassador. Not because you are aggressive, but because you are relentless. When you decide something must be done, you do not stop until it is done. That kind of determination is rare in the galaxy. Most species know when to quit, when to accept a loss and move on. Humans do not seem to have that quality. Is that a bad thing? Sarah asked. It depends on what you choose to be relentless about, Velthar said. If you focus that determination on building and creating, on making the galaxy better, then no, it is not a bad thing. It is a wonderful thing. But if you focus it on destruction, on revenge, on conquest, then yes, it is terrifying. We do not want to conquer anyone, Sarah said. We just want to be left alone to live our lives. Is that so hard for the galaxy to understand? For some species, yes, Velthar admitted. There are empires out there who view any new spacefaring species as either a potential subject or a potential threat. The Crithians were not unique in their aggression, just in their willingness to attack without proper reconnaissance. Others will be more cautious, but they will still see humanity as something to be controlled or eliminated. Then they will learn the same lesson the Crithians did, Sarah said quietly. I believe you, Velthar said, and that is why I came to speak with you, to offer a warning. Just as I warned the Crithians 5 years ago, the galaxy is watching you now. Every species is trying to determine what kind of member humanity will be. If you appear too aggressive, too willing to use force, they will band together against you. No matter how determined humans are, you cannot fight the entire galaxy. We will not start any wars, Sarah said. But we will finish them. That may not be enough, Velthar said. Perception matters in galactic politics. The Crithians are spreading stories about human brutality, human cruelty, the terrible things you did during the war. Some of it is true. Some of it is exaggerated. But it is shaping how other species view you. Sarah's jaw tightened. We did what we had to do to survive, to seek justice. I know, and I support what you did. But you need to be aware of the narrative being built around humanity. You need to show the galaxy your other side, the compassionate side, the side that builds and creates, and helps. How do we do that? Start with the freed slaves, Velthar suggested. The 2 million beings you liberated from Crithian facilities during your raids. Most of them have nowhere to go. Their homeworlds were conquered long ago, or they were taken from worlds that no longer remember them. Help them. Give them a place to live, to rebuild their lives. Show the galaxy that humanity fights not just for revenge, but for justice, for the weak and the oppressed. Sarah nodded slowly. It was a good idea. We have already been discussing this. Earth has offered to take in refugees, and several of our colony worlds have volunteered space for resettlement. Good. Make sure the galaxy knows about it. Make sure they see humans helping others, not just fighting them. It will go a long way toward building trust. Thank you, Ambassador Velthar. Your advice is appreciated. The old Netheran smiled, an expression that looked strange on his alien features. I have lived a long time, Ambassador Chen. I have seen empires rise and fall. I have watched species make the same mistakes over and over. But I have also seen moments of genuine cooperation, of different species working together to build something greater than themselves. I would like to see humanity become part of that legacy, rather than another cautionary tale. So would I, Sarah said sincerely. They parted ways, and Sarah returned to the human delegation. There was much to discuss, trade agreements to negotiate, defense treaties to consider, cultural exchanges to plan. The work of building a place for humanity in the galactic community was just beginning. But even as she engaged in diplomacy, a part of Sarah's mind was elsewhere. She was thinking about the Crithian Emperor, still hiding somewhere in the galaxy. She was thinking about the other species who might view Earth as a target. She was thinking about the eternal vigilance that would be required to keep her people safe. The war with the Crithians had ended, but the Watch never would. There would always be threats. There would always be those who saw humanity's determination as a challenge rather than a warning, and humans would always be ready to respond. 10 years later, on a remote world at the edge of charted space, Crithian Emperor Draxul sat in a dingy bar, drinking cheap alcohol and trying not to think about the empire he had lost. He had fled from world to world, always staying one step ahead of the human hunters. He had changed his appearance, his identity, his entire life, but he could never escape the knowledge that they were still looking for him. The door to the bar opened, and a human woman walked in. She was middle-aged, wearing traveler's clothes, looking completely ordinary. She scanned the room, and her eyes settled on Draxul. He felt his blood run cold. He stood quickly, reaching for the weapon he kept hidden. But before he could draw it, 3 more humans entered the bar, blocking the exits. They were not wearing military uniforms. They looked like traders, explorers, ordinary people going about their business. But Draxul knew better. The woman approached his table and sat down across from him. Emperor Draxul, she said in perfect Crithian, we have been looking for you for a long time. How did you find me? He asked, his voice barely a whisper. We never stopped looking, she said simply. It took 10 years, but we found you. Just like we found everyone else. Just like we told you we would. What happens now? Now you stand trial, the woman said. Like everyone else. You answer for what you did to Earth. And then, justice will be served. Draxul thought about running, but he knew it was pointless. He thought about fighting, but there were 4 of them and 1 of him. He thought about begging for mercy, but he knew humans well enough by now to know that mercy was not the same as justice. I am old, he said finally. I am sick. I have lived in fear for 10 years. Is that not punishment enough? The woman's expression did not change. 3,472,896 people died because of your orders. Each of them had a life. Each of them had dreams and hopes and people who loved them. You took all of that away because you wanted to expand your empire. So no, Emperor, 10 years of living in fear is not enough. Not even close. She stood and gestured to the other humans. Take him into custody. It is time to go home. As they led him away, Draxul thought about the speech he had given 10 years ago, when the Crithian Empire still existed. He had called the humans primitive, weak, easy prey. He had been so wrong. The humans were not prey. They were hunters, the most patient, most determined hunters in the galaxy. And once you became their target, there was nowhere you could hide that they would not eventually find you. The galaxy had learned that lesson from the fall of the Crithian Empire. Every species now knew the unspoken rule that governed interactions with humanity. Never attack the humans. Do not forget this warning. Do not make them your enemy. Because if you do, they will hunt you across galaxies, across decades, across lifetimes if necessary. They do not forget. They do not forgive unpunished crimes. They do not stop until justice is done. And in a universe filled with species who fought for territory, for resources, for dominance, humanity had proven that the most dangerous fighters were not those who fought to conquer, but those who fought to protect what they loved and to punish those who took it away. The Galactic Council had a new power in its midst. Not an empire, not a hegemon, but a species that valued justice above all else. A species that would rather be friends but would never hesitate to be enemies if provoked. A species that had taken a lesson from their own history and applied it to the stars. You can push humans far, but there is a line you must never cross. And if you cross it, if you kill their people and destroy their homes and think you can escape the consequences, you will learn the truth that the Crithian Empire learned too late. Humans remember. Humans never forget. And humans will hunt you to the ends of the galaxy and beyond if that is what justice requires. This was the new galactic order. And every species, from the smallest colony to the mightiest empire, understood it perfectly. Do not attack the humans. Do not make them your enemy, because they will never, ever stop coming for you.